Hey there, greetings and salutations. Jen here. You're looking at a black screen. Give me a moment. I'm going to pull a few things up real quick, and I'm going to lead into this video. It's only going to take a moment, and you are going to be looking at a black screen because I'm looking at my phone. I'm going to read you something, and I don't want you to get confused or get it twisted with what I'll put on the screen. So just as a little background to lead into this video, after lockdown started, I gave you a specific thing that happened to me right before that was God told me to stop eating a certain thing. Now, in yesterday's video, the last couple, everybody wants to argue with me. I just want to make it clear right now and tell you I'm not telling you what to eat. And I'm not telling you it's going to ruin your salvation. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying at this time, I don't think it's a good idea. But who am I? I'm not a doctor. But I did notice in the last year that things that the Biden administration was doing were coinciding with dates on the liturgical calendar. So, again, just as a little quick background, for example, last year on March 31st, he made that International Trans Day. The Rainbow Hijackers got their own day. That same date is the Annunciation of Jesus Christ. Um, so I started looking at I know what everyone thinks about the Catholic Church, and you think that it's a false church, and you think that, and I'm not saying there's not bad people in it because there's bad people everywhere, but I wanted you to understand that it's not everything is how it looks. And sometimes when somebody's persecuted, they are persecuted for bringing the truth to us. So, what I'm doing now is I'm pulling up a page. So, everybody that wants to run away because it's a black screen, just hang on. Doesn't anyone listen to podcasts anymore? I might see if I can do episodes like they're a podcast when I don't need to show the screen for references and whatnot. So I started looking at things on the liturgical Catholic calendar because I noticed that things that were happening were coinciding on that day, basically to take the shine away from Christ and Mary and the church and put it on worldly secular events. Now, again, Rome has led the way for a very long time. I'm not here to argue about what the true church is, this, that, and the other. All I know is there's somebody out there who seems to really not like the Catholic Church because they keep doing all these things um, on the liturgical calendar. And so I started looking. Whenever something happens, I've started looking just to see what's going on the liturgical calendar. All these Old Testament people who are still stuck in certain things and certain ones who are promoting certain books only, just so you get trapped in the words in there and not even telling you like what that's about. There's for some reason somebody out there who dislikes the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church used to just be universal church. There weren't any other quote unquote Christian churches. Now it's been a rocky road though. Now what I want to do, if I am right, if I am correct about who the Antichrist is. If I did know him, if his spirit was in my husband's body and now is in my son's, or they like to torment me like this, either way, when they start acting up around me, I know that something's coming, and they've started whispering and just I'm not sure why they stare at me. It's almost like other beings, right? Like they look at me like and they just stare at me as I'm doing things at certain times. Like it's not a conversation, it's nothing like that. But again, they've started kind of acting up and acting creepy again. And by creepy, I mean like makes your skin crawl type of stuff. So I know that that means something might be coming. And I know by watching Trump play with the market, this up and down thing. He's doing that for his buddies on the oligarchs. They're all quote unquote betting, they're gambling, taking risks, through the stock market, and they're all banking. So that's why you're seeing this up and down thing. They're playing with the market so they know exactly what it'll do and where it'll be, so that they can make it. It's against the law. You're not allowed to do that. And then am I correct in thinking there was some executive order to outlaw lawful practice or something? I So now the law is illegal. We are openly lawless. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I'm at. Anyways, 420. If I'm correct about the Antichrist, having known him, having been the spirit of the person I knew as my spouse, 420 is a big day for him. They like greenery. They like their Mary Jane. But I didn't know there's a lot of other things that happened on 420. So let's take a quick look. And then we're going to go down a really quick little rabbit hole. So here are some events that have taken place historically on 420. And then we're going to look at something very specific as a warning. So 1290, and this I thought was key, right? Watch how this stuff plays out, because what happens here is you almost begin to see some type of secret society likes to do things on this date, much like Friday the 13th is the day that they um caught and stole from the Templars, who back then were the good guys. They caught them, and they ambushed them. It was a massacre, and they stole all of the money or all of the donations that had kept that group running. And allegedly, they had some relics too. That's just an example for you. On Friday the 13th, that's when that happened. And my spouse's name is Jason, so he's very into Friday the 13th as well. So let's take a look at all these little events that happened on 420. We have 1290, the Round Table Tournament. What is that? Well, it was held near Winchester, England. It was an imitation of King Arthur to commemorate the betrothal of daughter Edward I, and attended by the king. So in 1290, we had everybody cosplaying like they were King Arthur with the round table. That's very ritualistic, if you ask me. 1862 is the first pasteurization test by Louis Pasteur and Claude Bernard. 1902, Marie and Pierre Curie. Um, Pasteur and Curie. I'm going to keep going. Isolate the radioactive compound radium chloride, which is kind of important too. 1968, British politician Enoch Powell, Enoch, makes his controversial Rivers of Blood speech. We might have to take a quick look at that just for reference sakes, because this is in the recent history, and he is also a politician, and they run the secular world, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Because again, at the end of this, I'm going to give you a warning about this 420. 1980, climax of the Berber Spring in Algeria sees hundreds of Berber political activists arrested. 1999, and this is big, in case you didn't know it, all of these occult people, and they'll deny it. You can't tell unless unless you have good discernment and you're like around them and you hear how they talk. Please understand that this day here, the Columbine date, they kind of worship that day. Like they kind of, those are good guys to them. And again, I'm just making observations. I'm not saying everybody is like that. But again, if your discernment's good, you can kind of tell these things. Now, again, this is key because you're seeing something start to happen here. You're seeing it almost looks like secret societies. You've got the royalty having their thing here, and then you've got Paul a really big speech about rivers of blood on this day, which I was just talking about in reference to the two witnesses and how when I went to Florida, the water at the beach turned red. So anyway, I'm going to keep going. 2010, and this is kind of a big one too. The Deepwater Horizon drilling rig explodes, killing 10 and causing the rig to sink, causing a massive oil discharge into the Gulf of Mexico and an environmental disaster. They showed that on YouTube for 24 hours a day straight, the BP oil leak, and they showed it coming out of this giant like pipe in the ocean. And again, Deepwater Horizon, there are so many movies about that. Oil is black goo. It is the blood of the earth. It does seem to be sentient, ferrofluid. So again, this is a big day. And you have these movies too. Deepwater Horizon, like you have all these movies like The Horizon Point and um, a few of the other ones from the 80s about things happening in deep water. 2024, the U.S. House passed a bipartisan $95 billion foreign aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, and there was a bill against TikTok. We're going to take another quick look, see what else. In the year 295, the eighth recorded perihelion passage of Halley's Comet, which is big. 850, Guntherus becomes Bishop of Cologne. 1139, the Second Lateran Council, the 10th Ecumenical Council, opens in Rome, which is, again, important because Rome, all roads lead to Rome. Rome is like the Federal Reserve, or Rome has its own Federal Reserve. So let's take a look here. Now, what I want to do, where did it go? Hold, please. Let me pull this up here. There we go. Events. Oh, it's up there too. Hang on, I'm looking for something. Trying to get. What happened on April 20th? Okay, so we have the round table. That all you went to? Well, that's dumb. Now I'm going to show you something else that I had found. I'm going to go to a different screen. Hang on a sec. Hold, please, while I go ahead and... do something here. Because I need to show you how I come up about this information, just so you know I'm not just making this up. All right. Now, why are you not showing me all of this? Hold, please. All right, so there's another one. Event of interest. Oh, are you guys over here? Here we go. Event of interest, 1535. Stockholm experiences the atmospheric optical phenomenon called a sundog over the city, prompting omens against King Gustav Vasa. I had to figure out how to open this up and get more information out of here. All right, 1610 on 420. The only recorded performance of William Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth during the playwright's lifetime at the Golden Globe Theater by astrologer Simon Forman. We had recording devices in 1610. They're open about that. I'd never heard of it. The Dutch East India Company management sets new guidelines, which is actually key in a lot of stuff. Oliver Cromwell forcibly dissolved the English rump parliament after it failed to establish a caretaker government. In Cromwell's words, "You have sat too long for any good you have been doing lately. In the name of God, go." Siege of Derry also happened on 420. The former King James II of England, now deposed, lay siege to Derry. 1702, Comet 1702 H1 approaches the Earth. The Tragedy of Lady Grey premieres in London. French mathematician Pierre Louis begins Lapland expedition to measure latitude and the shape of the Earth, joined by fellow scientist Anders Celsius. Handel buried. So this dude was buried in Westminster of London. I don't recall his music. I listen to classical, but I don't know who he is. 1777, New York adopts a new constitution as an independent state. I'd never heard that. French Revolutionary War. In 1792, France declares war on Austria and Prussia, beginning the French Revolutionary Wars, which also happened on 420. All of these things happened on 420. Napoleon I and French forces defeat Austria at the Battle of Abensberg, Bavaria. Governors of the Carcass declare the national sovereignty from Spain. Napoleon Bonaparte bids emotional farewell to his old guard. Frenchman René Callier is the first non-Muslim to enter Timbuktu. Territory of the Wisconsin was created. We have the pasteurization. Crosby Opera House opens in Chicago, was later destroyed in the fire. U.S. Third Enforcement Act confirms ability of the president to suspend writ of habeas corpus. This happened on 420. Don't forget that, because we're going to look at something else that happened on 420 once we get there. Pope Leo XIII wrote an encyclical on Freemasonry. You're not allowed to be a Catholic and be a Freemason. 1894, 136,000 mine workers strike in Ohio for a pay increase. We're going to skip some of this blase stuff. There's Marie Curie. We read about them. The Louisiana Purchase. Opening day of New South Wales rugby. Cleveland naps Addie Joss. The second no-hitter beats Chicago 1-0. Halley's Comet passes. Fenway Park officially opens. If I'm right about the Antichrist, he loves baseball. So that's, again, 420 is a big day. You have more baseball stuff right there. Ludlow Massacre, Colorado Fuel and Iron Security Team and Colorado National Guard soldiers killed 21 workers, women, and children during a mine strike in Ludlow, Colorado. Oh, you guys won't get in line. You won't do what we're asking you to do. We're going to hold your family hostage and might hurt them if you don't get back to work. This is where we're at. Again, I'm doing this for a reason. Thank you for bearing with me. It's a video, though. You're here for the content, allegedly, and the connections that we're able to make. So welcome. And if you do appreciate the content, give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. 1914, U.S. President Wilson, having dispatched more naval ships to Mexico, asks a joint session of Congress to approve armed force if necessary. Congress approves. 1915, Ottoman soldiers lay siege to the Armenian city of Van during World War I. 1915, Armenians rise and seize the Turkish town of Van, which they hold. Thousands of Armenians are killed. Chicago clubs play their first game. The Red Baron, who Snoopy enacts all the time. King Nicholas of Montenegro abdicates under duress. The Polish army captures. So there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on 420 throughout history. And it looks like a lot of incidents where a lot of souls pass away. Now, here we have one. 1936, the Jews repel an Arab attack in Petah Tikva, Palestine. Okay, pay attention to these dates. Ted Williams, the Antichrist, if he is who I think he is, he loves Ted Williams, loves him. German bombers attack Athens. Dodgers start to wear liners in their caps. Nazi German occupiers forbid Dutch access to their beach. A Braves manager is struck by a taxi, fracturing his leg. Okay, so what I'm actually looking for, we haven't seen yet. Give me a second because I want to get to that. 33rd President Truman, huge ticker tape parade held in New York City for World War II and Korean War. General Douglas MacArthur, after he was relieved of command by President Truman. Atmospheric nuclear test and Eniwetok Atoll. Again, this is important. They apparently seem to like this day, no? Neil Armstrong. And they don't have these in order. Or at least they didn't. U.S. Surveyor 3 lands on the moon. Enoch Powell gives his Rivers of Blood speech. We're going to have to look at that. I want to know what that means. And then I'll just show you this other thing that I found. And I'll prove that it happened on 420, and I'll just Google it or whatever again, because let's see what this is about real quick. Let's see if we can check this out. Okay, so Enoch Powell. Are you guys still with me? Let me make sure everything looks good. Are you up? Are you not watching? What's happening? There we go. Okay. Just taking it a minute. Why don't you stop doing that? Please. All right. Enoch Powell was a British politician known for his controversial views on race, immigration, and entry into the economic union. Powell was a classic, and I don't know a lot about politics, so let's figure this out because what I'm going to show you next, again, they would have had to have arranged for this. So, biography. Enoch Powell was a British politician known for his controversial views on race, immigration, and entry into the economic union. Powell was a classical scholar and served in the army before being elected to the British Parliament as a Conservative MP in 1950. In 1968, he delivered his infamous Rivers of Blood speech protesting at immigration from the new Commonwealth into the country. The influx of people would, he said, begin a bloody race war. His speech caused a huge outcry, and he was sacked from his ministerial post by party leader Edward Heath. In 1974, he gave up his seat in Parliament but was re-elected in Northern Ireland, where he served until he was voted out in 1987. Okay, that's a little weird. He doesn't sound like a very good guy. Oh, his Chinese zodiac is the rat. Huh. And the generation is called the Greatest Generation. The rat, anyone who's been with me during all of this, throughout all of this, that has been a symbol they have tossed around as much as they have tossed around Gotham. All right, so I'm going to punch somebody in here because I want you guys to see. I don't want to look all day for where it shows it. Hold on. Now let's see if it'll show us. You better not have changed this on me. So on 420, it says 120, 250. No. Hold, please. All right, I'm gonna go the other channel. The other deal I have pulled up, and I will show you guys. It's buffering, and I don't want it to keep doing that for you. So let's get rid of this one. There we go. That should be good. Okay. So this is Emperor Decius. He began a widespread persecution of the Christians in Rome. Now, I'm going to punch something else in here. What date did... Because it came up as 420 for me when I was doing that little bit of research here. Are you going to show us? Desperate persecution within the empire resumed. Show us the date. I need to see the date, just so everybody knows I'm not making stuff up. Oh, why won't you show me this? All right, let's pull this down. So it says the Decian persecution. Christians were persecuted in 250 AD under the Roman Emperor Decius. He had issued an edict ordering everyone in the empire to perform a sacrifice to the Roman gods because he thought that things were going bad and falling because people were not worshiping the old gods any longer. But what I want to show you is that this started on 420, that this started on April 20th and 250. I need the date. The date. What month and day? And I'm sorry, but I like to be thorough for you guys. That way you know I'm not making stuff up. What? January 250, but not that. When did he do the edict? Was in January. Why did it show? Hold, please. I don't want to be lying to you guys. I need to know why it came up in my search. The myth of persecution. Yeah, because the Jews were exempt. They did not have to do this. They were allowed to keep their religion and they were allowed to do what they did. And so that is my problem there. Why is it there? Hang on, guys. Hold, please. Just open it. Okay. April 20th, 420. The round table, and we saw that. Sports. How about in religion? Okay, SpaceX Starship rocket, the most powerful ever made with 33 booster engine, launches in historic first test on April 20th, 2023. I told you, they love that day. I didn't know SpaceX did that on that day, and I didn't know it had 33 booster engines. My goodness. Oh, here, so you can see what I'm looking at. Again, I'm trying to establish that this happened on 420, but for some reason, it almost looks like the article tab that I put in there. Gustav Shakespeare. I had it right there. I'm not quite sure why it's doing things this way. All right, so we're going to look it up. See, because I even looked up Decius because it showed me that happened on 420. History. Google it together real quick or search it together. Macbeth, Siege of Derry, French Lady. We got that. We've got that. Go back further, though, like to Middle Ages. Adolf Hitler was born on 420 as well. I had forgot to mention that one. Oh. How about liturgical? Because we were looking at secular and now we want to see liturgical events that happened, or ecclesiastical events, what have you. The celebration of Holy Thursday, Good Friday, the destruction of commemoration of Orthodox saints, blah, blah, blah. Come on, guys. Here's a list of what happened. Huh. Huh. Why is it not showing? Now what'd you do? Thanks for hanging out with me. Again, this is how research with me's go, but I like to back up what I'm saying. I don't want to just be talking out my you-know-what. Let's see if this shows us anything. We want to go back further than they were taking us. We want to go back a little further. Scientific breakthroughs, political milestones, How far back do you guys go? Cultural events, we've got Beethoven. Muhammad was born in Mecca in Saudi Arabia on 420 in the year 571. Interesting. I'm going to look what happened in Rome on 420. Thank you guys for your patience. I'm not just going to keep showing you something if I can't find the actual link that brought me here in the first place. 8th day of the century, but it was the month dedicated to two extraordinary female deities of the Roman pantheon, the goddess of love, Venus, and Cybele. That's not what I asked for. Rome events and historical events on April 20th. Yeah, you guys took it out. I wouldn't even have known this guy's name. There it is. That's where I saw it. Now I'm not a liar anymore. Good gravy. That took long enough. Sorry, guys. If you hung out with me, thanks. If you came back, thank you. So I'm gonna show you this tab. We're gonna get rid of this one. So this is what stood out to me as well as the rest of what you just saw. Was in the year 250 on April 20th, Emperor Decius begins a widespread persecution of Christians in Rome. And what kicked this off was Pope Fabian was martyred on that date, as were probably a lot of other Christians. Now you see, it is not the best day for Christians and Catholics that 420. So what I'm going to do now is bounce over to Decius. Now you see that I'm not a liar and there is a connection that Emperor Decius on 420 of the year 250 began widespread persecution of Christians in Rome. Let's find out why that started and what happened. So he began the new year that year by dedicating he performed a sacrifice to Jupiter in Rome that year because he believed that the downturn of everything that was occurring was due to them not worshiping the old gods any longer, right? So that's really what he thought. So let's take a quick look at this through Wikipedia. Let me make sure you guys can see everything. Share this tab. Awesome. And I've got my little lone person hanging out, my monitor, whoever you are. Oh, two people. I get excited over having a couple people. You guys rock. Thank you for bearing with me while I tried to show you that link because I did not want you to think I was lying to you, misleading to you, or just making things up. So Decian, I'd never heard of this guy. This is a Byzantine fresco of him. A Byzantine fresco is a wall. It's a paint. It's a mural. It's Saint Mercurius, a Christian victim of the Decian persecution, dated from 1295. So it says Christians were persecuted in 250 AD under the Roman Emperor Decius. Now, I did a name search on what that means too, but watch because there's a connection to Trump here. So if you came back or left or you're about to leave, hang on because there's a connection to Trump. So he issued an edict ordering everyone in the empire to perform a sacrifice to the Roman gods and the well-being of the emperor. The sacrifices had to be performed in the presence of a Roman magistrate. And they're not saying what kind of sacrifice. I mean, I don't know if they're using goats, lambs, people. I don't know. But we'll keep reading. And be confirmed and signed by and witnessed and be confirmed by a signed and witnessed certificate from the magistrate. That's gross. Although the text of the edict has been lost to time, many examples of the certificates have survived. So they lost the original text of the edict, but they have the certificates of that people got. Oh, here's your slip. You performed your sacrifice. Here's your receipt, your proof. Decius' edict was intended to act as an empire-wide loyalty oath to the new emperor, who had come to power in 249. Sanctified through the Roman religion, Christian monotheistic beliefs did not allow them to worship any other gods, so they were forced to choose between their religious beliefs and following the decree. Wait a second, though. Not everybody had to follow it because the Jews were exempt. I get real tired of hearing about persecution and or anti-Semitism and coming across instances where they are on the other side of Christian persecution in some way, shape, or form. And it's right here in black and white. So here we go. Here's the connection to Trump. Decius became Roman emperor in 249 as a result of military victories. He made efforts to revive Rome's golden age. Do you see it? Right there. Oh, so everyone's saying that I'm lying or I didn't have dreams about Mother Mary and she did not warn me about the White House being a bloody administration. I'm just warning you now. Things are not what they look like. Are you sure it's immigrants they're taking? And if it is immigrants, there's no crime there. There's no victim, there's no crime. And these ones know that. That's how they operate. That's why they're trying to tell you you're not a victim, because they know if they're a victim, then there's a crime. These are not always criminals. They are using that to get what they want, and as always, the media is a propaganda machine, and people believe it, most people. The more you clean out your personal certain things. So this guy, he made efforts to revive Rome's golden age. I can't believe we see that right there. Adding the name of one of his most admired predecessors, Trajan. Now, again, this is key because he looked up to this guy, and this guy. What's weird is you see like 3 or 4 years of peace for the Christians, and then the hammer comes down again. And I found that out just by a quick little search last night. I know it took me a minute to make the 420 connection here live for you guys, but I had to do it just so you saw I wasn't making things up. Trajan to his own revived the ancient office of censor and restored the Colosseum. Gee, that sounds like really good news for Christians, doesn't it? Because the Colosseum is where they were fed to lions. Restoration of traditional Roman piety was another of his aims. Really? You mean not walking around in sheets and being immodest? And after performing the annual sacrifice to Jupiter on January 3rd, 250, he issued an edict, the text of which is lost, ordering sacrifices to the gods be made. So he wanted to revive Rome's golden age. Does that sound like anyone you know? And I'm watching all these like special press briefings, and all it is dude with some smarmy, weird smile these days. I don't know what that's about, and patting himself on the back. I personally can't. What you guys decide to go in for or believe, accept, receive, and believe into your reality, that is completely up to you. So the edict ordered that everyone in the empire, with the exception of who? So you mean to tell me Christians had to choose between the Roman gods and their Jeez, stop it. That's what's hard about a laptop. I have a hard time highlighting, so you'll just have to follow the pointer. Maybe I can change it so you guys can see it better. So right here, the Christians had to decide who they were going to worship. But you see it in black and white here. I'm not being anti-Semitic. It's right here in Wikipedia. The edict ordered that everyone in the empire, with the exception of the Jews, aren't they the ones that got together with the Roman Empire behind everybody's backs and rallied for Christ's execution? He was such a revolutionary, telling people, give Caesar what's his, give them their money, but give God your obedience instead of bloody animals. Which again, we read through, we didn't even get out of the Old Testament, and every prophet preaches against stop sacrificing. Those are false idols you're sacrificing to. Stop doing that. And we didn't listen. And we still didn't listen. And I tell you again, if you haven't watched the movie Dominion, go watch the trailer for it. It's not these sweet little farms that you think they are. If you want to eat stuff that sits in its own waste for 6 weeks at a time, that's up to you. But that's what they're feeding us because just like the olden times, they hate us. We're useless eaters to them. We are not them. They are not our peers. Trump isn't going to come shaking your hand because you invested in some fake money that he told you to invest in. Like, that's not going to happen. So to the commission chosen, wait, let's go up a little bit. So they must sacrifice and burn incense to the little g gods and to the well-being of the emperor in the presence of a Roman magistrate and get their written certificate called a libellus. Libel, you remember blood libel about the Jewish people that was allegedly a lie? Like, they don't go and end Christians and this thing called blood libel. That's all fallacy. That's all anti-Semitism, they say. And again, I'm not telling you if it's true or not. I'm just telling you the information is out there if you want to go look it up. I covered it briefly on the other channel. This is why they hate me. Because I show, and it's here, black and white. Black and white. Everybody had to do it. The Christians had to choose between their monotheistic religion and the little g gods. But the Jews were allowed to keep their religion. They were allowed to keep their culture. Exception of the Jews, Julius Caesar had formulated a policy allowing Jews to follow their traditional religious practices, a policy which was followed and extended by Augustus. We already looked up the name Augustus. We know that that means royalty, which is also my dad's middle name. This is wild, my whole family. Want to know why the Jews weren't asked to change anything? Because they were already sacrificing. And these guys didn't care what they were sacrificing to, as long as they were doing it, they would make it to their little g god, right? Because you're in the Roman Empire, and if you're spilling blood, well, so they figured that was probably just as good as them getting, the certificate and the witness. They know what they're already doing. So doesn't that make you wonder then, rationally and logically, if the Jews were already doing this, and that's why they were given this exemption, why would Christians have to choose? Didn't we sacrifice things too? I would say no. I would say people who actually followed Christ did not practice that. And that is that is the biggest secret that they hide from you. And that is why that makes the difference between someone who actually follows Christ and someone who's a churchy Christianity Christian. Like, and I'm not judging, this is not about judgment. It's about compassion. Christ had the heart and the compassion. He told us he freed us from the old laws and the dark ages. He came because we were doing things wrong. So why are we still trying to go back to the time before he was here, disrespect his sacrifice, and we're still trying to go back to be this Jewish Christian conglomeration? And again, it's simple logic. The Christians weren't exempt because they weren't sacrificing. The Jews were exempt because they were already sacrificing. And this is probably where, right here is probably where you see the original church that followed Christ, the original Christians. You probably see them absorbed into Roman theology and society. And this is where you started seeing this amalgamation of Christianity and Judaism coming together with these sacrificial rites. It was well understood. Oh, Roman authorities respected tradition and religion, and the Jews were following the beliefs and practices of their ancestors. It was well understood that Jews would not perform sacrifices to the Roman gods or burn incense before an image of the emperor. In contrast, the Christians were new, and they did not seem like a religion to Roman authorities at all. Both the earliest extant Roman references to Christianity, Pliny the Younger and Tacitus in his Annals in 116, refer to Christianity as superstitio, the superstition, excessive and non-traditional religiosity that was socially disrupted. Christians had abandoned the religion of their forefathers and were seeking to convert others, which seemed dangerous to the Romans. Refusal to sacrifice for the emperor's well-being appeared seditious. So they weren't making any sacrifices. What do I have to do to open people's eyes to this? And again, I'm not judging you. My aim is for you to see that, one, it is a real prophecy about the end days, that people will go to a compassionate, a more compassionate lifestyle, which means not harming any life, which includes animals. And animals in Genesis are given a soul from the same breath of God that gives it to us. And it says right there that they have a soul. And we'll go over that in another video. But this all happened on 420. Now, Christians were prohibited by their faith from worshiping worm gods or burning incense before an image of the emperor. Refusal resulted in the deaths of some notable Christians, including Pope Fabian, Babylas of Antioch, and Alexander of Jerusalem. The numbers of people put to death for refusing to obtain a certificate is unknown. Unknown. Why is it unknown? They knew that these great men died. Why is the regular martyrdom unknown? Probably because it was so high. Large numbers of Christians performed the sacrifices as required, so much so that authorities at Carthage were overwhelmed by the numbers seeking a certificate and were forced to issue a notice requesting people to come back the next day. Many Christians also went into hiding, especially in Egypt, Africa, and Anatolia, including Dionysius of Alexandria and Cyprianus. That's not Cyprianus, is it? Cyprianus of Carthage. After the edict, the effects of the edict on Christian communities, many of which had until then lived peacefully and undisturbed, was traumatic. Many lapsed in their faith, and the readmission into the Christian community was opposed by the schismatic novation, meaning it's a division, right? The schism is a division, and this guy would not let them come back because they had he is considered by the Catholic Church to have been an anti-pope. Huh. Interesting. By 251, efforts to enforce the edict had died down, and although short-lived, the Decian persecution became the collective memory of the Church, an episode of monstrous tyranny. Now it says here he died in June 251, causing his edict to lapse. It had been in force for approximately 18 months. Deliberate persecution of Christians within the empire resumed in 257 AD under Emperor Valerian, followed by a period of relative tolerance under Gallienus before intensifying again in 303. So we didn't even have 50 years of peace as a Christian religion or a people, right? Because you see in 251 the edict lapsed after he died, but then it resumed right back within 5 years. And then you have another relative period of tolerance. And then in 303, right back to persecution. So all these people saying that we're the ones who persecute everybody, again, they're seeing what they want to see. And most of us do. Most of us see what we want to see when we want to see it. And we're in willful ignorance when we're lying to ourselves. So I'm going to keep going with the channel like I always have, whether there's one person or 1 million people watching. I'm going to keep moving forward and showing the things that God has put on my heart to show and share with all of you. I think you're seeing a real polar, a real pole flip with people, and a real polarity in people's moral compass. People either going to like these really depraved behaviors, or they're pulling back and seeing all that and going back to modest, frugal ways of living and a more isolated existence for right now. And I don't think that that's right or wrong. I think it's just the nature of what's happening. Now, I want to give you a warning. First of all, we see that this guy, he wanted to bring back the golden age. Like that's what he wanted to do. And the name of one of his most admired predecessors was Trajan. And Trajan was a Roman empire, remembered as the second of 5 good emperors of the Nerva Antione dynasty. He was a philanthropic ruler and a successful soldier emperor who presided over one of the greatest military expansion in Roman history. This is why people expect the Messiah. They expect him to bring some type of militarial rule and sometimes men especially, and I'm not trying to bash you, but it's just the truth. Sometimes men themselves, even Peter, that's the way he saw the church. You can tell it in the Gospels when you read certain things that Peter, in the letters, especially from the Ecclesiastic book by Eusebius, you see that Peter had this ambition, like he wanted to take things over. And John and Mary didn't have that desire to do things that way. That's not what Christ's mission was. Now, he will bring peace, I believe, but he is waiting for his people to see him as the Messiah. And they have had a relatively easier time than they care to admit. And again, you see it right here. Now, I would issue a warning to you guys because everything that the administration we are living with right now seems to be doing seems to fall in line with some type of historical date some type of historical event that has already occurred. Now, we are at 4/11. We have a week and a few days until 4/20. I'm just warning you that I would not be surprised if we started to see things ramp up a little bit because we are in a world now, a secular world, where these people follow and love Rome, but not any Rome, the militant Rome, the Roman militant. Much like the church has church militant, people get the wrong idea of that too. That's spiritual warfare, that's prayer, that's fasting, that's being a living sacrifice to your God by quelling your temptations, and not doing things. And the more people who keep acting in this way, there's the ringing in the right ear. The more people that keep acting in this way, the more people like me and you are going to have to balance our behavior out to kind of compensate for how far people are falling. And now, again, I don't expect anyone or everyone to agree with me. That's not why I do this. I do this out of an act of love and because I love Christ and I love Father. And when you do, that's our one law that he left us with was, if you read Sermon on the Mount, it was to do all things with love. And I want you to know that this administration, again, I know they're proxies. I understand all that. They still tell you what's coming. They still tell you, certain things that are going on. Inflation is probably affecting everyone at this point. A lot of people are probably having to downscale, maybe move, relocate for either a job or because they can no longer afford the lifestyle that they once had. You're starting to see these things now trickle down to regular everyday people. So they are not our peers by any stretch of the imagination. They are banking right now. They're gambling off of everything. They place bets on the election. They're placing bets on everything. Doesn't matter what it is, even some of us. And that's part of what the targeted individuals don't understand is a lot of these people are just elitists and they're bored and they have too much money. And now the regular everyday things like jumping out of planes does not bring them even like a junkie where he has to do a drug just to feel normal. These guys got to do strange, extreme things just to feel like they are having a normal day. Excuse me, I had to take a sip of my drink there. So on 4/20, Christian persecution started under a Roman emperor in the year 250. I would caution you and I would warn you to be aware of your surroundings, to watch your back, to watch the women in your family. Don't let them go out. We're not in normal times. The things we used to do should not be the things that we do right now. And that goes for everything. That goes for behavior, that goes for mental attitude, that goes for health, and that goes for what you consume as well. We are not in the times that we used to be in. And our system is not sustainable. And if the things I've told you aren't enough to look into things and make a change, there are not enough farms in America to sustain all of the meat eaters. So you have to ask yourself how they are feeding you. There aren't enough farms, and the farms they have aren't old school farms. These are chickens and pigs that never get to walk in their whole lives. They are stuffed like sausages already while they're alive in bins with other animals inside of warehouses. It's not what you think it is. You have to ask yourself, how long is this going to last? Even the rocks cry out because there is so much blood spilled. All right, so I had to bring your awareness around to this 420 thing. There are a couple cool topics that I'd like to get to. So we're gonna end this one here, and again, we're gonna do one with the color blue, another one with the color green, and when we do that color, we're gonna go all through vibration, frequency, stones, all of it, with a purpose. There's a reason I'm gonna do that. But as always, if there's time, because tomorrow isn't promised, and with the way things are going, you just never know. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't believe everything the TV tells you. Those people are all actors. You can find the information here on YouTube. If you don't know what it is, look up Project Mockingbird. Google the scene where or do a search in YouTube, newscasters reciting scripts, and you'll see that people all across the nation who anchor the news, alleged news, um, using the same dialogue, the same vocabulary, the same script. Nothing is as it seems. Be careful. And if you find yourself not caring in situations where you should care, there are ways that you can bring back your own compassion, but you have to want to do that first. And I'd be more than happy. I've had to do it with myself in certain situations, um, to just reawaken myself because of desensitization due to trauma. And a lot of us are in that same place. But I'm here for anyone who is like me, wanting to make changes, recognizing in themselves that changes need to be made, and then learning how to apply those things, which is when I go to other people who have been where I am first and I see what they did. And I try it. And if something they did works for me, great. If it doesn't work for me, well then, I take what I can use and I get rid of the rest. And that's how it should be. Nobody should tell you what to believe except you receive. That is on you. I'm not telling you that you'll lose your salvation if you eat bacon, but I'm not also not telling you that it's going to be good for you, because that would be a lie. I'm not a doctor. No part of this is medical advice. It has everything to do with the spirit that animates your physical body, the ka, the chi, the soul, whatever you want to call it. All right. This has been long enough. Thank you guys for bearing with me. If you're rewatching it, I appreciate you being here as well. Please do give it a thumbs up if you like the material. This is my work for right now. And I've just given you an hour of my time. You've given me some of yours. And that is the biggest, greatest currency that we have while we are in this current structure, is our time. When you give somebody your time, you give them a part of you give them a part of your day, and there is nothing more valuable. And that shows your love. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Go forth and may the Holy Spirit soften the hearts, minds, words, and deeds of those that you will interact with. And may you be covered in the habitation of the Heavenly Father and the Heavenly Parentals. And may you go forth and be a blessing this day, not a burden. Bye, guys.